St. Anthony's Chapel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania holds more than 5,000 relics and claims to be the largest collection of relics anywhere in the world except that found in the Vatican. Now, most churches don't hold this many relics, of course, but they still play a key part in the Catholic traditions. They're venerated in churches throughout the world. They're placed inside of altars. They're venerated in private homes. They're also enclosed inside of countless holy cards and medals and reliquaries. Far from being a quaint practice of the Middle Ages, relics still play a prominent role in the Catholic spiritual life today. Many people today, even Catholics, get a bit confused over what relics are, and even what the whole point is about them. So, what are relics and why are they significant? Simply speaking, a relic is something remaining from a previous time period. The Catholic relic, however, is more than just remains, it is holy. Now, there are 3 degrees of holy remains. First-class relics are any part of a saint's body as well as any objects directly connected with the life of Christ and his passion. Second-class relics are clothing or other things that came into physical contact with the saint while he or she was alive on earth. Third-class relics are those which have touched a first- or second-class relic. It's a common thing for humans to keep relics. Even in the secular realm, devotees of Elvis Presley or other celebrities do just this. We hold on to possessions and pictures of relatives who died decades ago, mementos of special events, and other random knickknacks. St. Thomas Aquinas recognized that the natural affection people have for one another causes them to venerate external things that a person owned in addition to the body itself. Yet, even greater respect to the body arises because one day it will resurrect with the soul. Add to that the holiness of sainthood, and the body becomes something to be venerated and treated with the utmost respect. A body of a saint who lived and died participating in the very life of God makes us wish to be close to these holy relics, and through the communion of saints, we on earth are united with those in heaven. God distributes many graces and miracles through these relics. We need to keep in mind, however, what veneration is not. The veneration of saints is not the worship of latria which is directed towards God. It is instead a veneration of the material objects of the cult, such as bones, ashes, clothing, etc. Although, as the Catholic Encyclopedia states, this veneration does not rest in them but looks beyond to the saints they commemorate. St. Jerome puts it very well, explaining, "We do not worship, we do not adore, for fear that we should bow down to the creature rather than the Creator, but we venerate the relics of the martyrs in order to better adore Him whose martyrs they are." Respect towards relics is not something that's unique to Catholicism, nor is it invented in the Middle Ages. The Greeks, for example, honored the bones of their fallen heroes. The relics of Buddha, such as teeth and hair, are worshipped in pagodas throughout the Buddhist world. At the tomb of Confucius, millions come each year to pay their homage. And Islam reveres 2 hairs of Muhammad at the Dome of the Rock Mosque in Jerusalem. These and many other examples attest to the prevalence of relics in various times and civilizations. Relics are also found in the Bible. For example, in the Book of Kings, we read about a dead body being accidentally put into the sepulchre of Eliseus, and it immediately came back to life upon touching the prophet's bones. The cloak of Christ healed a woman of hemorrhage by her simply touching it. Handkerchiefs and aprons were touched to St. Paul and brought to cure the sick, who had both disease and evil spirits leave them. The history of relics after the time of Christ is first recorded in a letter dating from about AD 156, the year following St. Polycarp's martyrdom. In a beautiful passage, the author writes, "We took up his bones, which are more valuable than precious stones, and finer than refined gold, and laid them in a suitable place, where the Lord will permit us to gather ourselves together, as we are able, in gladness and joy to celebrate the birthday of his martyrdom." St. Polycarp was consecrated Bishop of Smyrna by St. John the Apostle, and the connection is important because it shows a direct lineage of relics back to the earlier apostolic times, and these words represent the common Catholic sentiment towards relics even in the earliest Christian era. Pope St. Anicetus, who reigned from 152 to 160, built a shrine to St. Peter the Apostle, and pilgrims regularly visited there. St. Paul also had a shrine. Their relics and those of other saints at the time were referred to as tropaion, or in other words, trophies or victory monuments. The use of relics in the Catholic liturgy has its origins in underground caverns of the catacombs, which served as burial sites for early Christians of Rome and also places to secretly hold religious worship during times of persecution. The custom of putting relics in altars started here, with the Mass being offered on the tombs of martyrs. But with Constantine's Edict of Milan in 313, Christianity was legalized, enabling the cult of the saints and relics to flourish openly. The translation of saints became common during this time. This is the formal removal of relics from the tomb to a church or chapel, which then became a shrine. The translation of a saint is an important part of developing devotion to that saint, and the day on which it occurred is often celebrated as the saint's feast day. Even today, this opening of the grave and moving the remains of a candidate for the sainthood is part of the canonization process. The catacombs were no longer being used for burial in the 300s, so they became the site of pilgrimage destinations. And it remained this way until the 700s, when age caused them to be dangerous, and it was also inconvenient because there were so many people going there on pilgrimage that the popes authorized the translation of bodies to other churches in Rome, but also to other countries. We don't know exactly when the practice of venerating very small particles began, but it was widespread in the early 4th century. One altar stone dating from AD 359 has a cutout cavity for containing a relic of the cross as well as several martyrs. In the East, it was common to partition relics. In the West, however, there was more hesitance to touch, translate, much less partition the relics of saints. Only the holiest churchmen, after fasting and prayer, would do such a thing. Yet, relics did spread, and the Fifth Council of Carthage in 401 required all altars to contain relics. One interesting development during this time was that saints became even more popular than the emperor, and people eagerly wanted relics. St. Augustine, however, warned of merchants posing as monks selling fake relics. St. Gregory of Tours condemned the theft and sale of relics in Gaul. Such irreverence was so prevalent by the 400s that the Theodosian Code of 438 forbade the translation, division and dismemberment, and sale of relics. Pope Gregory the Great, who reigned from 590 to 604, continued this practice as far as possible, forbidding the unauthorized removal of relics of martyrs. For obvious reason, the authenticity of relics has always been important to the Church. We want to make sure that these relics are authentic. Relics were authenticated early on, and certifications can be traced to the 600s. Now, these were very simple and crudely written in Latin. Now, the greatest relics in all of Christendom are those connected with our Lord Jesus Christ. In 324, the Emperor Constantine sent his mother Helena to go search for the Holy Sepulchre and the cross on which our Lord died. She traveled to the Holy Land, and meeting the Bishop of Jerusalem, Macarius, she was able, with his help, to find the cross and the title that went on the cross, as well as the nails. The bishop encased the upright beam of the cross in silver and built a church over the place of the crucifixion in 335, while other significant portions went to Constantinople and Rome. The crown of thorns also went to Constantinople. It is said that Constantine mounted one of the nails in his helmet and made a bit for his horse out of another. Reliquaries were highly decorated to show the greatness of relics and to give more honor to them. They featured precious metals, gems, ivory, and enamels. They were large and small. There were relics of the cross in reliquaries small enough to wear around the neck in the 4th century, just as there are reliquaries of that size today. Constantine built one reliquary for the apostles that was in fact an entire church. By the end of the 600s, relics were more widespread even in newly converted countries. Gaul, now modern-day France, was filled with Catholic shrines, as was England. Some merchants, perhaps better known as relic thieves, supplied churches with relics. Deus Dona is the best known among these. He was a deacon who organized caravans across the Alps in the spring and then made his rounds to the monastic fairs. He acquired relics mainly from the catacombs of Rome and was the source for countless relic shrines in the Carolingian Empire. The Council of Mainz in 813 attempted to prevent thefts by requiring permission for translations, but this didn't stop Deus Dona and others like him. By the time Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Emperor in 800 AD, relics had spread more throughout the world than they'd ever spread before. And it wasn't something that was new. It was something that went back to the earliest Christian time. And that's probably because it's something that was very natural to do, to want to keep sacred remains and relics of friends who had lived before you, and to keep them for future generations. And so the next time you see a relic, whether you go to St. Anthony's in Pittsburgh or you just see one in a church or at a friend's house, stop for a moment and realize how relics have helped shape the history of Christianity.